You could write books about driver moves in Formula 1 that almost happened but didn't quite get over the line. But here at the race, we don't make books, we make videos. So we've picked 10 almost moves from recent F1 history that could have been fascinating if they'd come together. Before we get going, remember to like this video and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We appreciate everyone who has come along for the journey so far, and we hope you're enjoying what we're doing. Throw your suggestions for moves we've missed out into the comments as well. We've already got enough additional entries for a second video on this subject, but with your help, perhaps we can come up with even more. We'll be honest, this entry is the catalyst for us finally putting this idea together. Following Nico Hulkenberg's impressive stand-in performance for Racing Point, F1's managing director of motorsport Ross Brawn revealed the Hulk was on his radar when he was still in charge at Mercedes. The opening existed in the first place because Michael Schumacher was unsure about committing to another multi-year contract on top of his original 3-year deal that ran to the end of 2012. When Niki Lauda pounced as Hamilton's frustration with McLaren grew after that year's Singapore Grand Prix, Hulkenberg was Mercedes' second choice if it failed to land Hamilton. While Hulkenberg might take heart from Brawn's comments, he's also probably gutted that Hamilton took up the offer. When Juan Pablo Montoya was sent off to America in 1999 as part of a deal between Frank Williams and Chip Ganassi to send Alex Zanardi in the other direction, Montoya feared that was the end of his F1 dream. But Williams had blocked an approach from Eddie Jordan to take Montoya because he still had him under contract, and it was always the plan for him to come back. In early 2000, with Montoya having taken a sensational rookie championship winning kart the previous year, and Williams yet to make up its mind about what to do with him, rumours emerged that Toyota was interested in signing him for its upcoming F1 team. The speculation seemed to come from the fact Montoya was using Toyota engines for his title defence in America, and Williams might not have wanted to risk bringing in another kart champion after Zanardi's 1999 season went so badly. By the summer, Montoya was now an Indy 500 winner as well, and Williams' mind was made up. Montoya was coming back for 2001, and Jenson Button would be shipped off to Benetton for 2 years to make way for him. Jos Verstappen to Jordan could appear on this list twice. When the young Dutchman caused a stir with his debut testing performance with footwork in late 1993, Jordan was one of the teams interested in taking him for 94 before he went to Benetton. The two sides were locked in more serious negotiations in 1999 when Verstappen was on the verge of being signed as a mid-season replacement for Damon Hill. Straight after Heinz-Harald Frenzen's sensational win in the French Grand Prix, Eddie Jordan headed back to the UK to meet with Verstappen. With Hill saying he wanted to quit on the spot, a test was arranged for Verstappen, but he was barely faster than Mugen Honda test driver Shinji Nakano, and Jordan started to have doubts. Hill then turned up at the test and went significantly quicker than Verstappen, and after initially deciding he would at least stay on for the British Grand Prix, he saw out the season. Stefan Belloft's F1 career was on the verge of hitting the big time when he was killed in a sports car accident at Spa. The talented German, who'd been frustrated driving underpowered Tyrrells during 1984 and 1985, had just done a deal with Ferrari for 1986. He could have already been there for 85, but Ferrari hadn't been able to get René Arnoux out of his contract, although it fired him after one race anyway. This wasn't the only time tragedy stopped a career that could have been heading to Ferrari. In 2014, Jules Bianchi had just learned of Ferrari's plans to move him up from Marussia to Sauber for the following year, as a likely stepping stone to a Ferrari drive when he stepped into an F1 car for the final time at Suzuka. When Nigel Mansell rejected Williams' last-minute attempt to stop him walking away from F1 at the end of 1992, his countryman Martin Brundle thought he was in pole position for the seat alongside Alain Prost. Brundle was losing his Benetton drive because the team didn't realise quite how special Michael Schumacher was at that time. Team boss Flavio Briatore reflected years later that Brundle had in fact been one of Schumacher's best teammates. Brundle's talks with Williams went well, but in a matter of days he went from thinking he had the drive to losing out to Damon Hill. Frank Williams offered to explain his reasons, believed to be based on Patrick Head's preference to promote Hill due to his experience with the team as test driver, but Brundle didn't want to hear it. Alain Prost's sacking by Ferrari, which you can learn about in great detail in its own video on this channel, left him without a drive for 1992, but he nearly ended up on the grid as a driver and team owner with Ligier. Prost was prepared to drive a car that couldn't win a championship if it was part of a long-term project, although his tests during the early months of 92 suggested the car had much more potential than Ligier's regular drivers had been getting out of it. Time was too tight to get everything worked out behind the scenes before the season started, so Prost took a year out before returning to win the championship with Williams. In 1997 he bought Ligier after all, although he probably wishes he didn't. Okay, this one technically isn't an F1 deal, but had it happened, the repercussions would have had a big impact on F1 history, so we're declaring that it counts. After a slightly disappointing first year in the F3 Euro Series in 2004, Lewis Hamilton and his dad Anthony disagreed with McLaren over what his next move should be. The Hamiltons wanted to move up to the new GP2 series for 2005, but McLaren wanted him to do another year of F3. Hamilton was briefly out of contract at this time and spoke to several F1 teams, most notably Williams. But Frank Williams' advice was to stay on McLaren's books, and after some work behind the scenes from Martin Whitmarsh to patch things up, Hamilton stayed in F3 and won 15 out of 20 races. It's fair to say he never looked back. The rumours of Robert Kubica going to Ferrari rumbled for years before and after his F1 career was cut short due to his rally accident in 2011. But it was never confirmed in public until 2018, when Kubica returned to the F1 paddock as reserve driver for Williams. Not only did he admit that a Ferrari deal was signed for 2012, but he added that his future employer had made it known it wasn't keen on his rallying exploits. Benetton boss Flavio Briatore did all he could to sign Ayrton Senna for that fateful 1994 season. Early in '93, the two met at Briatore's house, where the Italian told Senna he'd found a sponsor that would be willing to pay him $8 million to race for Benetton. Senna laughed off the offer, reminding Briatore he was picking up $1 million per race that year for McLaren. Given there were 16 races that year, you don't have to be great at maths to work out that was quite a big pay cut. Little did Briatore know it, but when he called Senna in September to try again, Senna was on his way to sign his Williams contract that day. It's not clear if Senna was being targeted to partner Michael Schumacher at the team, or if Briatore was trying to get the Brazilian because McLaren were in the market for the German. Maybe we'll put that one in part 2. What? Okay, here goes, because apparently this one is true. With big backing from the Japanese footwork company and a Porsche engine deal that you can hear more about in our video on failed F1 manufacturers, spoiler, Arrow's tried to make some big recruitment moves in the summer of 1990. Arrow's boss Jackie Oliver approached Nigel Mansell early in the year before Mansell decided to announce his retirement from F1 at the British Grand Prix. Mansell said the deal was worth plenty of money, but he wasn't interested in making up the numbers and wanted a race-winning car if he was to stay in F1. The team's approach for Adrian Newey was made around the same time. Newey had fallen out with the management at Leighton House and was about to be sacked, and like Mansell, he was being offered big bucks by Arrows to be its technical director. In the end, Newey chose to take a less senior role with Williams, working under Patrick Head for less money. 2 years later, Mansell was winning the World Championship in a Newey-designed Williams. Arrows ditched its Porsche engines after 6 races of 1991, and it scored 6 points in the year Mansell won the title. Whew, that is brutal. Which was your favourite story in that list, and who should we include when we do this again next time? Let us know in the comments below, and remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss part 2 and all the other videos we're going to be releasing before then.